Always great to be here. So we'll have some good discussion today, and I'll hold on to all my neutrality on opinions. So I left a little bit of an outline there. I'll follow it a little, but just a few notes. I always like to have some notes to think about when I start to go off and talk. This is a topic, of course, very near and dear to my heart because I spend my entire life either with individuals I'm seeing, or couples I'm seeing, or families I'm seeing, or family businesses I'm working with, and a huge part of what they have difficulty with is having any level of civil discourse. Everybody starts arguing with each other and going at each other and all sorts of kinds of things. So it's just true of any systems. Just in your own backgrounds, just let me see a show of hands. How many of your parents, when you're growing up, really got civil discourse down? You know, your mom and dad would have a difference of opinion, and you'd watch a really good dialogue come out of it. Really an opportunity to really explore the meaning of the other person, and really wanted to take some time, some compassion. Anybody have a really good model of that growing up? So well, good. See, that's terrific. That's good too. That's good. All right. Well, you may not even need this then. That's terrific. So it's good. So, but the rest of us all need it because I certainly didn't watch that. That is the goal. I want to give you the goal before we start. Is take any topic. Doesn't matter. We can take one of the current ones that we're watching on TV this week, or take a topic in any system, or a topic in your family, or whatever. And can that topic, the opinion that you're forming, create closeness, not distance? And that's really the entire conversation I'm going to have today. In other words, I have an opinion. Anyone here? Is this a relatively opinionated group, or is this kind of a lack of opinion in this group? I'm just making a stab at trying to figure out who you are a little bit. So that's a joke, obviously. This is a highly opinionated group. We have tons of opinions, and the opinions are all over the place. And of course, the question for the church is the same thing. Could you have a series of opinions, many different opinions, and be a single, united church? And come together and worship together? And what are the tricks to that? What are the abilities to do that and work with that? So, anybody want to try a stab at that just for a beginning? What makes that so difficult? Why does opinion usually create distance? Or let me put it this way. Why does a difference of opinion create distance? Why doesn't it create closeness? Anybody want to try a shot at that? Yes? Right, you may not feel heard by the other person. And when you don't feel heard, what is your tendency? Get angry, right? That's classic. What else? Get defensive, right? Say it louder, repeat it over and over again. And of course, as you do that, what are you going after? Not being heard. That's how you don't get heard. Those are the tricks to not get heard. Follow me? Yes?
I think sometimes our beliefs become part of our identity in a way we can't self-differentiate, you know? And so if you're like attacking my opinion or attacking my identity, and that's, I think, when it kind of escalates.
Yeah, so it's terrific. So your belief becomes part of your identity. Why does a belief or opinion become part of your identity? What does that say about identity? Anybody? What do I know about everybody in this room? Anybody? What do I know? What do you know about me? Well, people have never heard me or never been here before. I know quite a few of you, but what do you know about it? What do we know about each other? About our own sense of identity and security? Yes?
We like to learn.
Well, let me say this. In this group, that's probably true. But if you just take that principle, I would like to learn, opinion almost always creates closeness. So you and I have a completely different opinion on something, and the thing you want to do is what? Wow, I would like to learn that perspective. Follow me on that? I was just talking with a couple of my rabbi friends, and they have dedicated their entire life to create dialogue between Palestinians and Israelis. That's all they've done. That's all they do. They spend the entire life doing it. Because what they find out when the Palestinians and Israelis talk, what happens? Actually, the group that they get together to talk, they start to find out what? They all have about the same needs. They're not that different. They break down some of the opinions and the distancing that happens. So if none of us have opinions turn into intimacy, which is of course the goal, opinions turn into closeness, opinions turn into understanding, opinions turn into learning, opinions instead turn into what? I have an opinion. You have an opinion that's different. It often turns into what? In our families?
A dialogue.
Well, in a healthy way it turns into a dialogue. In an unhealthy way it turns into what? Turns into arguments. Keep going. Turns into arguments. What else does it turn into?
Distance.
Turns into distance. What else?
Hostility.
Hostility. Straight out hostility. I was on the phone with F&M when I know I'm going to be traveling to some place, and I was talking to someone whose 3 children are not talking to each other. All on the basis of opinion. And of course the most interesting thing about that is each person is what? Right. Right. And stubborn. That's exactly right. So I'm going to start with a premise that most of the difficulty with this topic is that we're all insecure. Anybody here not insecure? Anybody here totally secure? And the second topic I'd start with to think about is none of us have a completely differentiated self-concept. In other words, where we really, really regard ourselves with humility and with a sense of love and caring. We've really integrated the Gospels in terms of forgiveness and acceptance. We're at peace with ourselves. Because if you're at peace with yourself, what are you most likely to be with someone else? At peace with them. But if I'm not at peace with myself, I still feel inferior at some level, I feel inadequate at some level, or I feel insecure at some level. Just take insecurity. If I am insecure, I form an opinion, what do I need to do? Say it again? I have to defend the opinion. Any idea just what happens when I defend an opinion? Anybody have a teenager or a young kid? You try defending your opinion to a teenager. What do they do? What do they do instinctually? Sorry about that. What do they do instinctually? They fight you. So I want to go down a little list, but here's the basics to it. Does your opinion have reflection? Does your tone of voice when you share an opinion have reflection? Do you know the difference between saying, look, I think this, and I think this. I think this. I'm thinking about this. I've really been, my best opinion is this. What's the difference between the two? One has room for what? One has room for you, and one has no room for you. But why would I say I think this, and this is right? Here's the thing. I can't believe that you think the way you think. Really? It's amazing to me. I'm thinking about leaving right now knowing how you think. Why do we do that? What is that about? Other needs of your own haven't been met. It's a very good insight. Absolutely. What else? Why else do we do that? Why do we become strident in our opinions? Right.
And so you're like, I don't know how to defend this, how to explain myself.
Right. But no one ever says that. But no one ever says that because that would be vulnerable. Look, I'm not really sure about my opinion. No, I think about it. I think, yeah, I'm a little dumb. I'm really sure that I'm sure that. Like now you mentioned that, I think I'm going to think about that a little more. No one ever says that. What do they do when they're insecure about their opinion? They get wild. They double down. They become more strident on the opinion. Opinions are tough. But here's the goal. Again, I'm just going to give you the goal just in case anybody wants to leave early. The goal is very simple. The goal is you have an opinion, I have an opinion, and the opinion is different. Now, when the opinion is the same, that's fun. It's fun to explore the deeper meanings of the opinion. But let's say the opinion is really different. The goal is you're fascinated by the other person's opinion. You're fascinated by that opinion. I'm so interested in how you got to that conclusion. And I would like to learn from you. I would like to learn from that. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you in the end. I might actually hold on to my opinion in the end. But I'm interested in your opinion. And I'm interested in the layers of your opinion. Do you know where opinion comes from? There's an interesting question. Where does it come from? You think it just comes from you? No, it's, gosh, do they all have an opinion? Does it work that way? You know, you're forming opinion, you're passionate about the opinion, and saying, where do you think opinion comes from?
Part of the problem is nobody thinks of their own opinion. They adopt it from somebody else.
Well, that could
And
be.
If you think about it for a long time, you might change your opinion.
Right, so if you have no self, you take the latest opinion that was told you and you adopt it. So that's when the self-concept comes in terms of that. But give me the layers of opinion. Where does opinion come from?
Reading the newspaper.
Reading the newspaper. Just reading material around you. It comes from there, right? So everybody here, I'm sure, is watching Fox News and MSNBC, and are watching them equally to kind of get different opinions on the world and how it works. And then you're turning on NPR and you're turning on NBC. And if you take NPR, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, you actually have a myriad of perspectives on the world, and I'm sure everyone here is exploring every one of those.
I don't think
What are the other layers of opinion?
Life experience and observation.
Life experience and observation.
family origin.
Family of origin. All the years, all the 68 years of my life have formed opinions, and they've been formed by all sorts of interactions, but they were formed very much from the vantage point of a male, one, a privileged male, if you just use the language we've been using this week, a privileged private school, educated male. Do you follow me on that? You know, never having to worry about whether there's food on the table or whether I could go or opportunities, bought a car at 16 years old. These all affect my opinions. First African American I went to school with was in 7th grade. First woman teacher I had was in college. Do you think these affected my opinions? My perspectives? So we're arguing stuff that has a ton to do with your entire history. Let alone just the adoption of, you can't even understand your opinions unless you can really think about your own mom and dad and the opinions they held. Because that has an enormous amount of impact, in the family. Yes?
That's going to have political movements, because I'm a child of the 60s.
You bet. Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think Vietnam has affected me?
Yeah.
You bet.
You can't know life unless you talk to a guy who came back from the sandbox or someplace without all his ignition wires on the right spark plug.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. It's one of the reasons I'm retiring is I give examples like, I did this to a class the other day, master's students. I said, all you have to do is just remember the story of Patty Hearst. All 40 kids. Who was that? You know what I mean? So they're coming up in a different perspective, whole different world. So what do we need with insight? And then we're going to get on a list some time. We need some humility. Just even a 5% humility that maybe your insight or maybe your opinion is not what? Right or not perfectly right. You follow me? Maybe it's a little off. Get me on that? If we looked at the history of the church, do you follow me? Think of the wars that have been played that we don't even think about the wars. The greatest war in the Episcopal Church, don't ever in the UCC or whatever, but one of the greatest wars in the Episcopal Church was what? I'll give you a hint. I'm standing right here. just a wild stab. The entire church split on that, on opinions about the definition of what the Gospels say. You follow me on that? People left the Episcopal Church like crazy on the basis of what? Somebody wanted to do what? Have a woman take an ordination, but not just ordination, a deacon, any level of senior leadership within a church. Was totally levels of opinion, divided, and a whole church is divided on that issue. And we can list about 10 others like that. Stuff we don't even think about now because, or actually some people might, but keep your hands down if you do. Anyway, so let's go from there. So, does your opinions have humility? Do they have compassion? Do you have some understanding of the other person? Here's a statement I like to say, which doesn't start off well, but just stay with me here. What do Obama, Clinton, and Trump have in common? They were all presidents. That's the easy one. That was my answer. You'd say, what am I doing here, right? Give me a more. There's something else they have very much in common. None of them had fathers. Clinton didn't know his father. Excuse me, Obama didn't know his father. Clinton was abused by his father, and Trump's father was absent. Didn't even check in with him. He was raised by nannies. If you don't have that knowledge about the three men, wherever you stand on the three men, you follow me? You're just, that's what I mean by compassion. You have a little bit of, whoa, where did this person come from in terms of the opinions they have? I said reflection. Oh, and you have some insight. We talked about that. So I'm just looking at my list. So let's go down the list. Try a few. So just what'd you watch? What'd you watch about opinion? It directly models what you did. If you are used to having really good discussions within your family, you are in a different place than if your parents were opinionated. And let's say they were opinionated from prejudiced perspectives. You follow me on that? That had to directly affect you. That doesn't mean you are today, but it had to directly affect you how it was. Because when you're doing it from a prejudicial perspective, opinions, there are what? There are good people and what? There are good people and bad people. There are right people and there are wrong people, which I'll talk about again in just a minute. And when there are good people and wrong, bad people and whatever, what level of dialogue do we have? None. We don't even relate to those, the bad people. We don't even talk. I did this in a class at Wharton when I teach a little bit at Wharton every year. And I asked, if you're sitting in a class at Wharton, and if you've ever done this, some of you probably have, but if you're sitting in a class at Wharton, you've got 40 countries in front of you. I mean, it's an international group of people. It's fabulous. I mean, the level of education they get is just unbelievable. When I'm sitting with 40 nations, I say, tell me which country you pick to be the bad country. You follow me? Everyone of them could tell me the bad country. You follow me? There was like, why would I mean, the United States is clearly what? The good country. And now let's pick a bad country. You follow me? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why could all 40 of them pick a bad country? And half of them were from Central America and South America and all sorts of some countries I didn't even know. But why are we the good country and someone says the bad country? We're afraid. There's fear. There's fear. We're all insecure. It's what we do. It's what you do when you're insecure. You become incredibly strident in your opinions. First idea. Opinions go into relational defenses. Not only do we have a different opinion, right? What do I do when I find out you have an opinion different than I do? You know what the classic relational defenses are? Anybody? How do we keep people away from ourselves? How do we keep people away? Avoidance. Classical defense, right. Avoidance is one. Try another. They're all biblical. Jesus talked about every one of them. Yes, we have an intrusive tone of voice. We'll always do it. I share my opinions with you today like this, and everybody wants to do what? Woo. He's got like a half an hour left here. Right. What else? Judgment, blame, criticism, being condescending, pejorative, projecting. These are all defenses. So not only do I have an opinion different than yours, I then do what? I judge you for your opinion. How could you have it? Are you educated, by the way? How could you have it? I don't get it. How could you possibly have that opinion? I thought you were smarter. Especially as a group, I just can't believe you don't have my opinion. But once I judge you, what happens? I judge you now for your opinion. I criticize you for your opinion. I blame you for your opinion. Exactly. Notice we don't even need a topic for this. I think we have to talk about this issue or the current discussions within the Episcopal Church or the UCC or politics. So we don't even need an opinion. But if I judge you for your opinion, what do you instinctually do?
Judge you back.
You judge me back. And we're doing the exact opposite of what the Holy Spirit demands. Grace demands what? The freedom of grace demands that we, or hopes, the availability of grace hopes that we forgive, accept, and love ourselves. We're receiving the grace of God. Spirit wants us to what? Be in community with each other. Be whole. Be whole within ourselves and be whole with each other. But I judge you and you judge me Remember the passage of Scripture? Jesus said, "You should be judging each other. I will never judge you." Does that sound familiar? That actually isn't a very good quote of it. I think it went, "Judge not lest ye be judged. For the manner in which you judge will be the manner in which you'll be judged also." Now, Jesus' mandate was what? Do not judge each other in love. So here's the interesting thing about the defense mechanisms. Once I know you disagree with me, and I disagree with you, it goes into I judge you. Actually, you are the problem, by the way, because if you believe this, I can't believe you believe this, by the way, especially this table here. I can't believe you believe this. And you are the problem. And if we could get rid of you, really, I think we'd be fine over here, because we agree, don't we? So I blame you, I judge you, I distance you. Most fun is condescending. Wow, I can't believe someone of your education believes that. I can't. That's fine. What does condescending get you? If I was condescending to you, what would you do with me? Even this loving, very thoughtful, sophisticated group. If I was you couldn't leave. Let's say the doors were locked. What would you do if I was condescending?
No, I'd say, could you find it in your heart to forgive me? Because the way you're speaking to me is hard on me.
Well, that would be interesting. That would change the process. You'd want like a relationship. You'd like to actually let's talk about it. The average group, if they were condescending, one would try and cut me out to knees. You follow me that? I'm going to get every department in the United States to try and prove you're wrong. Follow me that? The other group would go down and say I must not be any good. You follow me that? And the third party would just withdraw. Our opinions go into the defense mechanisms. Versus, I'm really fascinated by how you think. I'm fascinated by how you believe. Please.
What do you do if you just walk away?
Well, the difficulty with that is we lose what we call kind of intellectual capital. Think if we actually could share our opinions with each other. If I just walk away, I can't find the richness of who you are. I can't find the richness of your background. Of being somebody that probably within a few years of age here, a little bit and whatever, and find those ages and just what it was like for a woman growing up in the 50s and the 60s, or what it was like for you. I can't find any of that material out. And of course, the more we're isolated and the more we're in our own little hole, little place, you can't really figure it out like that. So that's one of the biggest losses. So coalitions, that's an interesting one. I've already mentioned that. It's the classic, besides building defenses when we're having trouble with opinions, we build coalitions. Everybody know what a coalition is? I'm going to get a group of people to what?
Work together.
Oh no, you're being far too constructive. I'm going to get a group of people to think like I think. And then we're going to make another group, like I'm going to get this group to think like I think, because I'm so insecure, I just can't really hold on to my own thinking. But boy, if I could get 50 people to think like I think in this room, that would be terrific. And we're going to use it to organize against whom? Right. Thank you very much. Because now we're going to exaggerate our thinking against your thinking, and you're going to build a coalition against us, and now we're just going to end up in a full-blown fight. Sorry. We're going to do coalitions. That's what families do. They don't do multiple alignments. Multiple alignments should be in a good dialogue. Everybody understand that you're seeing multiple alignments and coalitions? I'm kind of interested in your perspectives and I can see we've got a barrier of perspectives here. And it says I'd like to align with each one of them and kind of figure it out a little bit and figure out what you're saying and figure out your perspective on the thing. Right? A coalition is I'm actually getting a team of people that are going to totally defend me against this other group of people. And now we're lost. Holy Spirit is going flying out of the room. Now then I'm going to put it into blame, then I'm going to put it into judgment, then I'm going to put it into criticism, and we're going to go into a really bad place. I realize if I walk too close to that, all you're going to see is my shirt in this. It's a little strange. I haven't done this before without usually big cameras, whatever. So anyway, ambivalence is interesting. One of the definitions of psychological health is the ability to be able to contain ambivalence. Not turn it into a fact. I was doing that. I'm having an ongoing discussion with somebody who's dying. Will be dying in the will be dying in the next 2 or 3 months. And here's one of these guys in the world that ran the world when he was built a huge blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but he's actively dying. And the thing that he's most scared about is ambivalence. He doesn't know what's next. He always knew what was next. You know what I mean? He always worked in facts. He always worked in knowledge. He doesn't know what's next, and it scares the whatever. It's ambivalent. So what do we do because ambivalence is so hard? What's the defense against ambivalence? You might completely avoid the topics. You make yourself really busy because you don't want to deal with the ambivalence. Right? What else do we do? What?
You fill it with what you want.
You fill it with what you want to do. And often we become very concrete. You know there are issues, and I won't go into them. I vowed I was going to be totally good the entire 45 minutes because I have tons of opinions, and I don't know how you respond to them. But there are issues within the church that were not even known to be even an issue 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Made up issues. Then the Bible projected into them, you follow me on this? And then totally divided us on sorts of things. Think about that as you go. Anyway, ambivalence is very hard. Because I can't stand ambivalence, I have to become even more strident in my opinion. Because if I find out my opinion is not right, I start to feel what? Ambivalent. I start to feel insecure. You're questioning my reality, and I'm so ambivalent, and I'm a little scared of that ambivalence. You can't question it. This is the way it was. Try this at home, especially if you're above like 50. And, we're all losing some of our memories. The memories aren't so good. Like, have an argument with someone you love about what happened last Tuesday. You follow me? It's fun. You can make it last for like a couple hours. Nobody remembers, actually. You can't say, well, I'm just not sure. Who cares? Let's see, but you can't do that because the ambivalence is so difficult. And the last one is splitting. Most important thing. And then I'm going to only talk about healing in a minute. So splitting is a very serious psychological dynamic. And when we split, we chuck everything into, because we don't like ambivalence, and we have some insecurity, we put everything into 2 buckets. Good people and bad people. People do this in families. I have a good son and a bad son. Sons and daughters do that with parents. I have a good parent and a bad parent. Good grandparent, bad grandparent. Good side of the family, bad side of the family. Some of the family businesses I have, this is the good side of the family, this is the bad side of the family. Follow me? This is the right side of the family, this is the wrong. Just think through it. If I'm right and you disagree with it, it makes you what? It makes you wrong. And the complicated nature of that, if I'm right and feel I'm right and feel justified in my right, but we split, and most splitting happens because of pain. We have pain in our backgrounds. Everybody here does have pain in our backgrounds. We don't talk about it much, but if you have pain in your backgrounds, the ambivalence is very, very difficult. We're not trained to say things like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what the right direction is. I'm a little ambivalent about it. I'm a little this. We're trained to go into splitting. And in our society today, we can take a look at all sorts of levels of our society where there are good people and bad people. Unless we do what? I'm going to go into healing now. Unless we do what? We took all the good people and all the bad people and put them in one room and got them to talk, what would happen? I get there are extremes to this. You follow me? Forget the extremes. But if we take the good people and the bad people, and we put them in one room and started to talk, what would happen? If I really got to know you, I really got to understand where your opinion came from, why you're so powerful, why that opinion is so important. If I really started to find some empathy of why you approach it the way you approach it, what would we find out?
There would be less conflict.
There would be less conflict. Unfortunately, again, just as a statement in general, not over just the last year or two, last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the United States is going to good and bad people. And every time we do that, we're taking the Holy Spirit right out of it, And we're forgetting the fact that if we just talked, just opened up and shared, we actually may not agree with each other, but we could actually calm it down. At least we wouldn't have to go into the defenses of, I'm not talking to you and you're not talking to me. So here's the goal, primary goal. Okay, I'm just going to now just kind of select off a few of those. The primary goal is one is you can reflect. What do you know about yourself? So here's the joke I often say. So I've been married 46 years. Anybody want to guess what the problem in my marriage is? It's my wife. Thank you very much. Exactly right. How'd you know that? You know her? Well, you know her, right? You must know her. I didn't know you knew her. And my wife comes to that, by the way. I reverse it just in case you think I'm really stupid. You know what I mean?
We're going to have to erase the audio.
Exactly. But why do you laugh at that? Why is that funny? What? It's relatable. That's exactly right. I had a guy that was, it was so interesting. I had a guy that was coming to me, and he was on his 6th marriage. That's my record over 40 years of work. But he said to me, Steve, I'm beginning to think it's not them. You can call it anything you want, but I call that an influx of the Holy Spirit into the room, because at least now we had material we could actually work with. Because all the blame, judgment, criticism, arrogance, all that stuff, you can't even work with, because the Holy Spirit's there, but you can't access it. Because you're so full of your own rage, you're so full of your own anger, or whatever. But Susie says, I'm beginning to think it's not them, the Holy Spirit's like flying into the room. Now we have material we can look at. And the goal isn't, of course, to make it all his fault either. The goal is you just take a modicum of understanding. Now, if you can really reflect on yourself, you know what about yourself? Your opinions are what? So this is an opinion, in case you're wondering. So you get in trouble right here. Your opinions are flawed. They're flawed. They have to be flawed because you're what? You're human beings. And you're flawed. I'm flawed. It's the basis of our entire Scripture. Actually, I don't need religion. I don't need church. I don't need the sermon I heard this morning from my pastor. I'm perfect. And in truth, if you are perfect, at one level you need it more than ever, but at one level there's no access to any of this material. It's all built on the idea that we're flawed. Or the old picture of God and human beings. Everybody see this picture? There's God, and what's after that? Down here is in one straight line are all the human beings. There aren't like people up layers. Well, by the way, I have a little closer relationship to God than most of you, so when I speak, you should be listening to me a little bit. My opinions are a little more valid. Don't you agree with that? Is that right? I can see this table would definitely agree with me on that. Right. But we do that all the time. Or it's projected on us. But in point of fact, flawed. So if you just have some reflection that your opinions are flawed, there's just even a little bit of room for a different idea. Or just even a little movement to the idea. It's just a classic that I was talking about the other day that comes to mind. Your teenager talks back to you. I have people that think that's disrespect. It's the only possibility. Some 16-year-old, 15-year-old little girl, little boy, some young guy and gal says some word to their parents or swear word to their parents, or I don't care what they say, but they talk back, they act out, and all they can do is look at it as disrespect. If that's the only way you can look at that, what happens? What else is that? A teenager talks back to you. What else is that? So it's disrespect. I buy that. I grew up in a really conservative home. That's definitely disrespect. I got one. What else is it? Separation. They're trying to grow up. They're trying to be their own person. What else is it? Say it again? Opinion. They're practicing having a voice. They're practicing learning opinion. They're practicing sharing the opinion in their house. Now, we could add 10 more to those, but if you have a myriad of opinions about what that is, you have a 100% better chance of talking with that kid and growing that kid up than if you do if you have one single opinion about what that is. So you're just reflective. You can think through your own material. You can take a look at yourself and know you're flawed. So you're worried. Here's the next thing. You figure out how to actually do a dialogue. It's actually a trick. So I'm just going to give it to you. It sounds really simplistic, but if you could do it, it's really kind of interesting. In every sentence that's said, there's one word to explore. Sometimes two, almost always one, but sometimes two. And if you could explore that word and ask a series of questions, you can actually start a dialogue. The most violated rule, here's the second thing, if you remember nothing else today, this is what I have you remember, and this is what I keep reminding myself. The most violated rule of communication is opinion is responded to with opinion. So I share, I think, look, I think X. And you say, well, I think Y.
No.
But nobody says, Steve, help me understand X. And then we take a half an hour, and all you do, all Gina and I do is Gina says, talk to me about X, Steve. Help me understand X. Tell me where X comes from. And she uses keywords along the way, and then I stop it for a minute. I say, Gene, we've only got an hour, so I want the next half hour. I'd like to understand why. I'd like to understand why.
What if the other person just kind of clams up, you know? I guess
That's the key. I mean, that's what you see if you can unblock. See if you can, great. But usually, if you can show incredible interest in who they are, you follow me? How often did Jesus, let's just do a theology, how often did Jesus have incredible interest in who someone was? All the time. Or how often did he just meet judgmentally? Critically. You follow me? He had a ton of interest in So I say I'm having a difficult day, you'd ask what?
What's wrong with it?
No? What's the key word?
Why? How can I help?
No? No? No?
Why is it
No? What's the key word? I'm having a difficult day. What was difficult about it? Help me understand the word difficult. I feel strongly that X should happen. Take the, Dr. Blasey Ford, or take Judge Kavanaugh. I feel strongly that this should happen. Key word is? Help me understand strongly, Steve. Give me the word strongly. What's behind strongly? Give me the layers of strongly. Well, it's clear to me that X is the case. And you would ask? Help me understand the clarity for you. How did you get to clarity? What were the factors that got to clarity? What are you putting together that makes clarity an issue? And you would, before I ever knew your opinion, so I make some strong opinion about Judge Kavanaugh or Dr. Ford. I make a strong opinion about either one, just in the current, what we're all going to be living the next 4 days. I make a strong opinion on either side, and you spend the next half hour exploring my opinion. Not once putting your opinion in. I actually don't even know your opinion. That's a dialogue. And then it reverses. You follow me? It's not like I'm just lecturing and then says to me, well, Steve, tell me your opinion. And then we go back and forth. And we go and we explore each other's opinion. We actually ask questions. It is the most violated rule of communication. We don't ask questions. Where does it have to come from?
And it comes from here. So take your example.
Yeah.
At the end of this period,
Sure.
there'll be a vote.
That's true.
And I think we're all kind of raised in this model.
Louder, please.
At the end of this period, there's going to be a vote. Now, we're actually talking about a specific
and
case.
there's this notion of objective truth.
That's correct.
We're all exposed to from you.
Correct.
And there is a truth. And we may not know it.
Correct.
But there is one.
Correct. And we will not know
But there's going to be a vote.
it. Correct.
And it's an important one.
Correct.
So the people who are voting, their opinions matter a very great deal.
Totally correct.
So at some point in my dialogue,
Right.
hypothetically, I really want to convince the other person that they should vote a certain way.
That could be.
When do we move past the dialogue and into the area where you actually need to convince someone that they ought to have a certain opinion?
Depends what position you're trying to convince me. If you're doing it from judgment, blame, criticism, condescension, how much do you think I'm going to listen? If you do it through your passion, and I understand some of where you're coming from, and you're very clear about it, I would really like to convince you to think differently. And you process it out loud so I know what the rules are. Then I'm fascinated. Okay, let's try it. Let's take 20 minutes. Let's try it. I got an open mind. I'm not right. I don't mind listening about it. The other thing you said, which is very valuable, is that you're right. You're running a business, you're in a family, and whatever. Somewhere, we can do this dialogue back and forth. It needs to be resolved. We actually have to do something. You follow me? You're going to have a dialogue about a new pastor. Believe me, there's going to be lots of dialogue. No one's going to be right. No one has the right answer to that thing. It's going to be a dialogue. It's going to have to go back and forth. But eventually, you're going to have to vote. You're going to actually have a couple people. And you have to say, we vote for this person. I don't know actually how it works in the Episcopal Church, but we vote for this person to come. You get me on that? So after you have the dialogue, I understand where you're coming from. Maybe I still hold on my opinion or whatever. It goes to a number of different places. We agree to disagree. Sometimes some things can be done like that. We are in a vote. So as families learn how to actually vote, or churches learn how to vote in a civil way, and they have a vote, and maybe they decide whether it's majority or supermajority in terms of the vote, in terms of that. Maybe it goes to hierarchy. For instance, I was incredibly interested. I think I did a good job of that because I was trying to do what I was preaching, kind of thing. I was incredibly interested in my children's opinions from the very earliest stages. But in those earliest stages, not once did they have the vote. So I could go to my 8-year-old, that beautiful 7-year-old beautiful 7-year-old I was talking to earlier, she's having a birthday party and whatever. I'd be unbelievably glad to hear her opinion about how I'm doing as a dad, or I'd be unbelievably glad to hear her opinion about like when bedtime should be, or should she eat 16 pieces of cake and whatever. I'd be interested in her opinion. Where does that come from? I'd really probe it with her. But at the end of the day, bedtime's bedtime. So I'm not like, but we don't ever do the dialogue. How refreshing would it be if we could get, I'll do it again, Republicans and Democrats, independents, come together, take an issue, and talk about the pros and the cons of every direction they're thinking of, and really probe them, and understand the thinking behind them. We do none of that. We're all in camps. And once we're in camps, we actually can't find the depth of something. Does that make sense?
It does. I appreciate your optimism. Unfortunately, it's not happening.
So I will say this. My optimism is not that high. But I tell you where I can do it, and I really mean this, I can do it with my wife when I'm in good shape. And if I'm not in good shape, I don't do it. But I can do it with my kids. I can do it with my friends. I can do it at my, and keep widening out the circle. And the more it can be done, you'd be amazed how much you can actually impact. You can actually work in terms of that. There's still opportunities for us to do it in as many ways as we can, and not get discouraged if it can't be done at a larger level. Please. Oh, sorry, please.
When you get in that kind of a situation, what about the word compromise?
Yes, compromise is right. Compromise is the truth. And I understand that your opinion and my opinion say, why don't we see if we can find a road in the middle? Why don't we find a gateway? Is there a road between us that we can go? It's a perfect thing to do. But you can't even get there if I don't ask you a series of questions. I can't say that enough. So if I said to you, really hurt me, you would ask what?
What did I do?
No? How did I hurt you? Right, the second one. How did I hurt you? If I say you really hurt me, and you say, well, you hurt me too, where are we now? We're hurt, right? Exactly. That was very good. Very quick. There's no shortage of quickness in this game. Right. Actually, my wife said to me last night, she said, you really hurt me. I said, well, you hurt me too. And we had a whole 3-hour discussion on who hurt who the most. How do you do that with? Actually, I want the discussion to last about a week, so I said, you're always hurt. That's a good one, like for a separate bedroom, like on the couch. But I might find my own humanness, my own reflection, my own insecurities as a person and say, well, how did I hurt you? Knowing perfectly well I can hurt you. And have her describe it to me and go some questions and at least see if I can approach, I have some sensitivity to that now. And then she does it in reverse. Tell me where your passion was coming from. And I'll say this, and we'll find out we had good intention below it, Because that's what you're going after most of the time. You find out there's really good intention below it. And if you can find the good intention, you can often soften it. Work with it, please.
One of the words I find that cuts through that pretty quickly is I.
Right.
I felt hurt when you said.
Right.
Or when you did.
Right. Yeah, if you can share an emotion.
Yeah. And it doesn't threaten the other
Right.
person. The other person doesn't have to agree that that's
Right.
actually happening.
Here's another. Can you talk reflectively? For instance, I'm talking to you right now, I'm talking reflectively. There's room for you. If I take the reflection out of my voice and I talk intrusively, I start to talk like this. How much room is there for you now? Even though there's a pretty big hallway and there are lots of people here, how much room do you actually have to speak up? And if you disagreed with me, if you did disagree with me, you'd probably start off disagreeing how? Not respectfully. You'd start off what?
Howling.
Yeah, howling. And then once you howl, I howl, and we go because I'm filling up much too much space in the room. You know, just whoa. We just kind of relax here and have a little humility. And there's a thing. Then if you actually were to ask me, here's the, you know, if you're in a business and you're trying to do classic conflict resolution, it's not complicated. Get somebody to stop yelling and just ask a series of questions to find out what's underneath their anger. So if you were really angry with me and I was really, look, sit down with me. Come on, let's take 20 minutes. Come on, let's just sit down. Let's figure it out. Help me understand what you're angry about. Tell me the feeling underneath your anger. Do you know there's an emotion, a vulnerability, and a wish under all anger? Do you have any idea what happens if I go and find the vulnerability or the wish? We're in a dialogue. There's a vulnerability and a wish amongst all the anger we're seeing. If you can find the vulnerability and wish, you can actually have a dialogue. If not, we're going to take sides. We're going to end up in those camps. So I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to let you go. So this is enormous. Let me say two things. This has enormous amount to do with just intimacy. How close do we naturally let anyone get near us? We can use opinion on an ongoing basis to make sure no one gets near us. And that's done all the time. And why don't we want anybody to get near us? We grew up without a level of attachment, we're used to alienation, we're repeating rejections, we're isolated, we're alone. You know, just opinion like no one wants to be with me, no one wants to see me. Just internal opinions can convince you from ever getting out of your room. You follow me on that? Versus, you know, and getting out of your room and going to talk to someone, or going to church, or, you know, just going and talking with the person next to them and finding out the other person feels a little bit strange because it's their first date too, and, you know, just reaching out. But there's all sorts of things like that that can happen. So just intimacy issues are in terms of that. But here's a powerful tool. Anyone understand the term attribution? And I'll let you go after this. Got the term attribution? So I've probably spoken here 15 times over the years. Known Merrick for a very, very long time, you know, and friends, etc. I come back partly because of the attribution that I have towards you. A bunch of stubborn, kind of stuck in the mud people that really don't think about anything, and, you know, kind of arrogant and condescending and constantly critical. That's a possibility, but that probably wouldn't be coming back 15 times if that was it. I've never not come here and there hasn't been a really good discussion. It's fun. Fun. We can do the next level of it's even more fun. We take an actual topic and practice sharing different ideas. Matter of fact, it's what the church is going to have to do. There's going to be lots of ideas about what the future of this church should look like. That happens when any senior pastor steps down. What are you going to do with those opinions? Are you going to be right? Should we split the church on the basis of that? Easily done. You follow me? The right people and the wrong people, or does it all go into dialogue? But the key is you find kinder attributions. Take any situation you have, find a kinder attribution towards it. Have a better interpretation of it. Don't pick the negative attribution. It's a skill. My mother's 95, healthy, wins at Duplicate Bridge, blah, blah, blah. She gave me instructions the entire trip to Cape Cod on how to drive and where I was going. It was like verbal the entire trip for 6 hours. I've been to Cape Cod, like I'm 68, let's say, I've been to Cape Cod 130 times, maybe, twice a year, forever, my entire life. I used to live there, blah, blah, blah. You get me on that? What is that? Right, she doesn't believe in the GPS. Thank you for bringing that up. I got one puts up here in the car, those things never work. Right, so but what is that? Do you follow me? I have the choice of attributions of what that is. One attribution would be that's love. She's always tried to love and make sure I was okay and going the right direction. Another attribution is that she's anxious, which is true. Every time she leaves her apartment now, she gets anxious because she's got a place in the apartment. She's got, she knows what she can get medical care very quickly and whatever. She's fragile. The third attribution is what? She's a pain in the ass. She's always criticized me, always trying to control me. I'm sick and tired of it. So one might think she's 95 and 68, but I actually haven't gotten past 14. But who picks the attribution of what that is?
You do.
You do. So take, for the people that we did take issue, take the people that would think in terms of Judge Kavanaugh, or take the people that would think in terms of a current issue in our society. Could you at least find, Dr. Ford, Dr. Blasey Ford, could you at least try and find a kinder attribution towards the person that you think is incorrect? Could you find a kinder attribution for who they are and where they are and where they're coming from? Could you just find a kinder way of interpreting it? That makes sense? That is just a, just do it theologically. What is through our faith in the Lord? What is the Lord's attribution towards us? We are what? We are loved and we are beloved. Even knowing that we are what? Flawed. That's an attribution. It literally changes people's lives, that attribution. So you have the power to change the attributions or something even you feel passionate about in terms of that. And that's the goal. Find a kinder attribution and put yourself in dialogue. If you have the opportunity, I was doing Habitat for Humanity, and I'm not a skilled carpenter, not a skilled plumber, not a skilled anything. So I was doing so we were moving pavers, you know what I mean, bricks, because the truck dumped them over here. We had to put them in wheelbarrows. I spent all day with an African American gentleman who was about my age, same age, and a Muslim woman in garb, and we talked for 8 hours on prejudice. Do you think that was not a great day?
That was a great day.
That was a great day. That we moved pavers was totally aside. Comment on that? But that was just a great day. So keep it in dialogue. And if for no other reason, forget about anything else in the world, this is going to be a necessity for this church. Because when America's here, in another 10 years, you kind of know the process, you know the system, you like somebody does, you don't like somebody does, you know that there's a pattern to it. It's not ambivalent, like any pastor. But all of a sudden he leaves, there's all this ambivalence now of what's going to happen. And the worst of you can come out. Don't let the worst of you come out and be the incredibly strong church you are now for the next 2 years, into the next 3 or 4 years, into the next ministry of some man or woman that comes in to lead you. And that's a real hope. Bye. Thank you, everybody.